Hi everyone, my name's Chingwa and I'm an intern here at LTC, and I'll be talking to Dick Howe about his position as the Register of Deeds. And first I just want to say thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I guess right off the bat, first question that I ask everybody is can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, my name's Richard Howe. I was born here in Lowell a long time ago. I grew up here when I practiced law in Lowell for about 8 years. And then in 1994, I ran for election as Register of Deeds, and I won. There were 8 candidates in the race, and I won by 25 votes, so it was a very close race. And I've been serving there ever since. I get reelected every 6 years. However, this year I chose not to run for reelection. And so there are 3 candidates who are seeking the office to succeed me. My term ends on December 31st of 2024. And I plan to retire after that, and I'll still be in Lowell, and I hope to devote a lot of my time to Lowell history and politics and writing about it and talking about it as opposed to being in it.
Yeah, so first I'd like to thank you for your service of being the Register of Deeds for so long, and my next question is, what is the Register of Deeds?
The Register of Deeds is the elected official that oversees the Registry of Deeds, which is the office that holds copies of all the records of land ownership for the towns in the district. I represent the Middlesex North District, which consists of 10 communities. Those are Billerica, Carlisle, Chelmsford, Drake, Dunstable, Lowell, Tewksbury, Tingsboro, Westford, and Wilmington. And the way the Registry of Deeds works is when you buy a house, you receive a deed from the owner. And we can talk about what that is a little later. But you bring it to the Registry of Deeds. We make a copy of it in our records, and we make those copies available for future owners to do research to determine who owns the property and whether they have the right to sell it. The earliest document we have is from the year 1629, and it comes right up until, whatever got recorded this afternoon.
Wow, that's a very long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you think about it, if the United States only became a country in 1776 or 1789, for more than 100 years before that, there were English people living here using the system of land ownership that we still use today.
Can you tell us what is exactly our deeds and why are they important?
Well, a deed is a written document that is evidence of the transfer of ownership of land. When land first became privately owned back in England, maybe 1,000 years ago, the way land was sold was the 2 parties would go out on the land, and the owner would pick up a stick and hand it to the new owner. And handing over that stick symbolized the transfer of ownership. And it was out in public, and it was a sort of a ceremony. But then as more people learned how to write, they started making a memorandum of what had happened. And that became known as a deed. And then at some point, I envisioned it to be like a cold, rainy day. Somebody said, why do we have to go out there? Why don't we just sign this document and hand it over? Mm-hmm. And that's where the deed came from. So the deed, if you think about a deed, it's not like the title to your car that says you're the owner of the car. The deed is more the substitute for that ceremony of handing over a piece of the land to the new owner that I described.
I saw on the registry website that it used to take 4 weeks to process a document, and now it takes 4 minutes. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, that's really a function of the march of technology forward. When I became Registered Deeds in 1995, we had just started scanning documents, and the storage device we had filled up quickly, and we had to buy 40 gigabytes of additional storage. And in 1995, that cost $40,000.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty shocking today because we could run down to CVS and buy a thumb drive, probably with 100 gigabytes in it for maybe $20 or $30.
Yeah.
So that's an example of why it took so long. In the days before scanning, it was a much more labor-intensive job to reproduce the records. For instance, from 1629 up until 1924, the copies we made were all done by hand, meaning somebody had to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and hand copy every document that was recorded. And in 1924, it was typed. In 1945, they were microfilmed and printed. And then in 1995, we started scanning them. And today, in a lot of cases, we don't even see like a tangible piece of paper because our customers, the lawyers particularly, can sign up to get a secure internet connection with us, and that allows them to scan the original documents and transmit them to us securely. And so all we ever get is a digital image of the document.
Yeah, so I know back when I was a kid, we used to like handwrite everything. Like, had to write essays, have to write like all our math homework and like put them all out on paper and like just give it to a teacher. But nowadays, I know that now we can just submit it online. So like I know at UMass Lowell, we use Blackboard and like we submit our essays, all of our work and our answers online on the Blackboard classroom, and it's just like, just type it in and like just submit it. Yeah,
I mean, that's a great analogy in an education context to how our job has changed. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, if I just can continue on, people today often say, well, kids don't know how to read cursive. That might be true, but it doesn't really make any difference. Mm-hmm. I've been experimenting with artificial intelligence to kind of supercharge an optical character recognition program. That means you scan something and it converts it to text. Well, with AI, it can actually read cursive and spit out pretty accurate text of these handwritten documents. And to me, that's amazing because even if you can read cursive, and we have maybe 900,000 pages of cursive text, you don't really know what's in it. But if you have a text file that's searchable, it really magnifies your ability to search it. And so that's just, to me, just an example of how, as we go into the future, technology will continue to make this office more relevant.
Yeah, technology is amazing. So my next question is, when is the Register of Deeds open and where is it? And are there any other services or resources that people should know about the office?
Well, the Registry of Deeds is located in the Lowell Justice Center, which is at 370 Jackson Street. It's the big 7-story courthouse that was just built a few years ago. We actually moved in there in March of 2020, just as the pandemic struck and shut down the world. Mm-hmm. We're open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekdays. But we really encourage people to interact with us virtually, either by telephone or by email or on our website. Our website, the easiest one to find is lowelldeeds.com. Because we found that if you send me an email, say, could you find a copy of my deed? It's easier for me to find it while I'm sitting at my desk rather than when I'm standing at the counter waiting on you. And then I can email it to you. And so you have a digital copy of it on your computer. You can print it if you want. You can forward it to somebody else. So I think it's much more efficient both for us at the registry, but also for the consumer. We still allow people to come in and we'll help you as best we can while you're there in person. But just ask people to at least call us before they come down, because a lot of times we can handle whatever you're looking for over the phone. It saves you the
Yeah,
trouble
it
of
does save
parking
time if you
and traffic.
saves a lot of time.
Right.
So I know you just mentioned lowelledeeds.com, so can you tell us a little bit about it and why it's useful to have access to this information?
Well, lowelldeeds.com is sort of an umbrella URL or address for the registry's online presence. It's useful because there's about 15 million pages of land records that are available to be looked at 24/7, all for free. So if you're interested, like if you're thinking about buying a house, you look at the address of the house, you can go online, you can look up who owns it, you can see what they paid for it, you can see what they got for a mortgage on it, you can see who owned it before them and who owned it before them. And so there's a lot of valuable information there. There's also information about particularly a thing called the Declaration of Homestead. Under Massachusetts law, if a homeowner records a homestead on their property, it protects the equity in the home from creditors, so that if you get sued, potentially a creditor could force the sale of your house to satisfy the judgment. But with a homestead, it protects the place where you live as a personal residence. There's that, and unfortunately, more and more often, there's this thing called title theft that's becoming a thing, where somebody forges a deed and records it. And the good news is that doesn't convey ownership of the property. The bad news, it does create a paperwork mess that takes a while to clear up. So we have a service called the Consumer Notification Service, where you register for that for free. If any document with your name in it gets recorded, it just shoots you an email automatically to tell you about it. So if it's something you know about, you can just disregard it. But if it's something you don't know about, it gives you an early warning of it.
That's a great tool to use. I guess, what's your favorite part of your job? And I guess what's also the most challenging aspect of your position?
Well, the favorite part of my job is there's three things I'm passionate about: history, the law, and technology. And this job kind of merges all three of those together. Because I think having an understanding of law is important. You don't have to be a lawyer to be the registered deeds, but it certainly helps, because you're a kind of a quasi-judicial official who's making judgments about the documents that are presented for recording. And you do have to make some decisions on whether they comply with the law or they don't. Land records are all about history, like I said, going back to the 17th century. And we've talked a lot about technology. So those are the three things that I think most excite me. The biggest challenge of the job, I don't know. It's, sometimes working in government, the bureaucracy moves slowly. And so there might be something I'd like to do technology-wise, but people aren't as anxious as I am to implement it. So it sort of drags the process out a little bit.
Is there like any cybersecurity concerns regarding towards this information that is online?
There's huge concerns. I mean, anybody with a computer or electronic device better be concerned about cybersecurity. Before I went to law school, I spent 4 years in the United States Army as an intelligence officer. And a couple of years ago, I used to joke that little did I know in 1980, where my primary responsibility was protecting our information from the Russians, that would be a relevant skill to have in the 21st century. But it's true. So yeah, we definitely put a lot of emphasis on cybersecurity, but there's no guarantee. And so you have to have good disaster recovery and backup plans, because if anything does happen, you have to be able to reconstitute the records very rapidly.
My next question is, what do you think are good qualities to look for in a register of deeds?
Well, good qualities in a registered deeds. First, the qualifications of the registered deeds is to be a registered voter in the district and then to get more votes than anybody else. So you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have a degree in technology. But I think what's important to understand, so when people who are going to vote listen to the candidates, it's important to choose one that has a vision for the office. I think that's one of the reasons I've been able to accomplish all the things I did was when I went in, I knew that we could use technology to really revolutionize the place. But I think, there's a risk of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so I think look for somebody and listen to the people who have a vision for how the office should move into the future and evolve and maximize its use of technology.
So if I'm a registered voter, and obviously I don't have a degree yet, but I'm not majoring in law, am I able to apply to become a registered of deeds?
Yeah, I mean, the process is, well, it's a 6-year term, and so in, 2030,
Yeah.
so there's some requirements. You have to collect nomination signatures. So you have to go out and find 1,000 registered voters in the district and get them to sign a petition, basically, that says, yes, we would like you to be the candidate. You and as many others as get those signatures would then go on the ballot. It's a partisan office, meaning that you either run as a Republican or a Democrat or an unenrolled candidate. If you were running as a Democrat, you would run in the Democratic primary. The winner of the Democratic primary would then face off in the November election with the Republican nominee and any unenrolled candidates. And then whoever won that election would be the next registered deeds.
I see.
So yeah, it's never too early to start your campaign.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm too young, and I feel like those people would have a lot more experience than me.
You never know. I think it's important to have somebody that has a good grasp of technology,
Right.
to take the job. And the surest indicator of having a good grasp of technology is a person's age. And by that I mean the younger they are, the more adept they are in the emerging technologies of today. And so you're better able to apply them to the way of doing things. I think that the threshold needs to be more than being able to click a mouse and maybe populate an Excel spreadsheet. You need to understand sort of how imaging works,
Right.
how transferring files. There's all kinds of things that go into it.
So I guess talking about elections, I guess what should people know about the upcoming election that's coming?
Well, the 3 candidates that are running are all running as Democrats, and that means they'll be on the ballot in the Democratic primary, which is September 3rd. It's actually the Tuesday after Labor Day, and it'll be easy for people to forget that there's an election that day because you might be getting your kids ready to go back to school. You might be getting ready to go back to school.
Right.
You might be unpacking from your Labor Day vacation, and you'll wake up on Wednesday morning and say, oh, I forgot there was an election yesterday, and you'll leave the decision to somebody else. There are a lot of opportunities to vote early, to vote by mail, and so that's coming up pretty quick. By the middle of August, you'll be able to start casting your votes.
Yes, so this is my last questions. Where can people learn more about the Register of Deeds and the work you currently do?
Well, I think by going to that lowelldeeds.com website, there's a link there that comes to me. I have my own website, richardhowe.com. I write a lot about Lowell politics and history. That has a link to my personal email on it. Anybody that wants to get in touch with me or find out more about me, that would be a good place to go.
That's all the questions I have for you today. First off, I'd like to say thank you for coming on to the show. My name's Chinghua, and we've been speaking to the Register of Deeds, Dick Howe, for LTC's The Lowellian. Thanks for watching.